Hello, and thank you for being here. My name is Chrissy Hodges, OCD advocate. I'm the author of Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. I'm a certified peer support specialist and co-founder of OCD Peers. If you're looking for treatment, I can help you find therapists worldwide to do referral consultations. But if you're looking for telehealth, NoCD provides therapy all over the world now. So head on over to treatmyocd.com or check out the link in the description of this video below. Hi, I hope you're doing well. Thanks so much for being here. Tonight I'm going to talk about one of my very favorite topics when it comes to OCD. Now it might be one of my very favorite topics, but it certainly isn't like my favorite thing to happen. And that is the physical manifestations that come along with having OCD and anxiety. So first, I'm going to talk a little, I have plenty of videos about how it can manifest kind of in the erogenous zone, so as we know it as the groinal, but I want to go a little bit more in depth tonight about some of the other things that can happen, but also how we hold our anxiety and we hold our OCD and how that it can impact us physically. So there's just going to be a couple different parts to this video. I started the video when I put the chicken in. So I can't do too long because I got to get up and get the chicken out or it's going to burn. So anyway, this is such a common phenomenon that happens with OCD and anxiety, and it's also one of the more shameful, one of the symptoms that causes the most guilt for people. Also, one of the things that can happen that will really put you in a position where you do not want to ask for help. And the reason why is because we logically can see OCD, anxiety as, okay, this is a disorder of everything that I'm experiencing. I can see on the Y box quiz, or I can see it on all the symptoms listed, or this article completely displays everything I'm going through. Chrissy describes it this way, but I can't articulate to you how real it feels when we're having the experience in our bodies. And that can really make us question what we're going through on whether or not it really is anxiety or whether or not it's OCD, because the things that I'm going to talk about tonight are so powerful that we do think there's no possible way a disorder could make me feel this way. And in fact, it supports more about what the intrusive thoughts are like. So I just wanted to preface with that because I have so much empathy and sympathy for those of us that have to deal with these physical manifestations. Now, just to get to it, and Phillipson says this, I can't remember what video of the OCD stories he said. He basically said, look, if you didn't have these emotions that were attached to what was going on with OCD, then you wouldn't be honing in on the intrusive thoughts to begin with. So it is the emotional connection that we have with the intrusive thoughts in basically the consequence of having them and then having the emotion that make it so real for us, and that's how we get stuck. And I can't remember the emotions that he said like anxiety, fear, shame. I don't know, there's another one, but if you find it out, great, go look at his stuff on the OCD stories. But for me, it's always really been this emotional, physical connection to intrusive thoughts that really have had me think twice or question, even if I know, and this is the ego dystonic nature of it, even if I know that the intrusive thoughts aren't real, it doesn't matter, because if my body is reacting physically, why in the world would I not question that, right? So let's talk about, I'm going to just go over really quickly what you've probably already seen in my videos before. When you have sexual or violent intrusive thoughts, this can manifest very easily in your body. In any sort of erogenous zone, you're going to have, in trying to prove whether intrusive thoughts are real or not, you're going to be monitoring your body for arousal. You're going to be monitoring your body for, am I reacting in a way that makes me feel like I want the thought? So this could, of course, the groin is always the biggest one, right? So my groin moved. For women, it may feel like this tingling sensation. You may be like checking on whether there's moisture down there or not. So that means I'm lubing up and I really like it. For guys, you may be checking for an erection. You may, even if you're partially hard, or if things move down there. For males and females both too, you might feel something in your back end. Same thing, tingly, same thing, feeling like there's some sort of arousal back there. You may feel something in your breast. You may feel something in your mouth. So if you think about like whether or not I want to give a blowjob or whether or not I want to suck something, you may have your mouth start watering. You may feel like you moved your lips, that you licked your lips, that you're salivating a lot. Even sometimes people have physical manifestations in the way that they feel like they've moved their head, or they're moving towards someone's body parts, or just in general, maybe a movement that mimics some sort of sexual reaction. A huge one for this would be thrusting. Did I just thrust my hips? Did I just move my hand towards someone's body part? Or maybe even if you have POCD, toward a child, or did I touch a child in the way, did I move my hand? I don't know if I did. Did I angle their body where I wanted their crotch on me? Things like this. So we're starting to have these physical feelings and hypervigilance on every part of our body that we think could prove or disprove whether or not these thoughts are real. So, I don't have anything to say about that other than it sucks. This is a natural part of having OCD and anxiety. The reason why is because we're so hypervigilant about it. If you're checking over and the bottom line is this. If I'm focusing on my vagina, like 1000%, boom, it's going to move. I'm going to feel something down there. The same way if I'm focusing on my head, like, do I have a pain up here? Like maybe I, bumped my head earlier. Oh my God, is it hurting? Does that mean this? Does that mean that? It's going to exacerbate. People who have intrusive thoughts about having brain tumors will often manifest headaches, things like that, or they're, stress, causes headaches. So then the more you're thinking about it, the more you're hypervigilant, you're going to start manifesting these symptoms. So the only thing I can say about it is it sucks. I hate it, and it keeps us stuck. So if you're there, I do want you to know, y'all, this is a normal part of having OCD and anxiety. You are not alone to think, well, mine is different. The way I feel is different. This can't be the groinal. Yes, it can. It can. It manifests in all different ways. And I'm going to tell you something. When you are deep into symptoms, the groinal feels so real. And I've talked about this before. You might even have orgasms. You might even, dream about things, and then you wake up and you're questioning whether or not you have an orgasm, or you feel so aroused that the arousal feels like it feels greater than when you're actually having sex, when like beforehand, when this wasn't even an issue. And that's the thing. You're focusing so much that the arousal feels like arousal times 10,000, 100,000%. And while it may feel uncomfortable, I hate the groinal, but at the same time, I sit there and question, like, but do I hate it? Because is this supposed to feel good? So it's just part of the process that keeps you really, really stuck. I also want to say I'm so sorry that we experienced this sometime. It just sucks. I want to move on to, there's two more things I want to talk about. The next thing is, and someone brought this up in group, and and then it kind of jogged my memory of people who have experienced this, including myself. Other physical sensations that you can experience would be things that you might experience if you have a crush on someone, or if you are anxious or excited. Okay, so what does this mean? So if you're excited about something, right, you might have like butterflies, or anticipatory anxiety in a way of like, I can't wait. Your breathing might change. You might sweat. You might like get these feelings in your stomach or your chest, or like little flutters. Sometimes I get these weird, when I have heavy anxiety, sometimes I get this weird feeling through, and it tingles all the way, and it tingles into my head. And I think, no, this is not a tingly feeling. This is a misery feeling. Why am I? And I just sometimes have to let the waves hit me over and over and over. And I get very confused about I feel miserable. Why is my body acting like I should feel excited? Because this is an excitement to me. So especially when you have sexual, violent, intrusive thoughts, you might have your body reacting with anxiety, but it feels confusing, like I'm confusing it with excitement. I may get these butterflies. I may, let's say you have sexual orientation OCD and it's honed in on one particular person, or even like incest, and it's honed in on a family member. If you know you're going to see that person, you may think to yourself, oh my God, I just had butterflies. Does that mean I'm excited to see them? Or does that mean I'm anxious and nervous to see them? And then you get into the cycle of trying to figure out anxiety versus nervousness, right? And the symptoms mimic each other so much. I mean, think about it. Excitement sometimes means you can poop. You're excited about something, and so you have diarrhea, right? You're anxious, you're anticipating something. But you can also have anxiety and then you have diarrhea, right? I mean, so these are the physical sensations I'm talking about that cross over. And when we start to be hypervigilant about it, we're going, oh my God, what does this mean? Because one time I had diarrhea about, going somewhere I really wanted to go to because I was excited or whatever. And now I'm having it here. Or I had butterflies and now I'm having it here. Diarrhea was the worst example ever. Sorry. But I'm sure anxiety poops are real. They are a real thing. Anyway, so this is where the wires can get crossed for us, and that we start to be really hypervigilant about these excitement feelings, confusing them with anxiety. And then of course you're going to go down the rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, this means I'm actually really excited about this and it's not an intrusive thought. This can 100% happen as well about religious intrusive thoughts or violent intrusive thoughts, right? So a common physical manifestation of violent intrusive thoughts are urges. So you feel like what if you snap and you can't control, you're sitting there and you're sweating there's a knife over here and I just had this visual of picking it up and hurting someone and I'm so scared to get to the knife, and all of a sudden you feel like you can't control your arm to grab the knife and do it. That's an urge, right? So we say that is an urge. And so you can also have that anticipatory nervousness or anxiety that can maybe confused with excitement, right? And that can be exacerbated too, because you sometimes will see shows about murders or whatever, and they talk about that feeling of excitement. And so then you think to yourself, oh my God, I have that feeling of excitement when I have violent intrusive thoughts. That must mean I'm a psychopath. That must mean I'm going to, which by the way, people who have psychopathy, they are not all violent. I just want to put that out there. But that's typically the message that we get. So the crossover between nervousness and excitement with anxiety and fear is very, very close. So just wanted to put that out there to make sure that you know that if you are perseverating on that particular physical manifestation, you're not alone. So lastly, and then I have to check the chicken. Lastly, I want to talk about how OCD and anxiety can really impact us physically and we don't even know it. I've struggled with this in the last few years. As you know, I've talked a lot about this. OCD has latched onto an injury for me, but also, and I haven't talked about this a lot, I have struggled with the physical manifestation of being in fight, flight, or freeze. This is what happens when we're triggered for OCD. It also happens when we're triggered with trauma. Okay, so if you're having a trauma response to something, your body goes into this protective mode, and the same things happen every single time. I've learned to recognize these, thank goodness, and I also have learned to recognize them with OCD. Now, the same with the groinal or the nervousness piece. Just because I recognize it doesn't make it, it doesn't make it oh, that's just that, and it's not really impacting me. It absolutely 100% impacts me, and sometimes I just have to sit through it. The same way I have to sit through the groinal, the same way I would have to sit through, having butterflies, or like I was saying earlier, I had this wave of this feeling that I knew wasn't good, but I just had to sit through it. one of the things that I experience and I hear a lot of people talking about is when it impacts you physically, some of the things that you might do are like putting your tongue at the roof of your mouth. Okay, so this is a protective mechanism, right? And then shoulders up, and sometimes forward, sometimes back. So a lot of times shoulders back are I'm backing off and I'm protecting myself. A tight core, right? So meaning like I'm pushing out in my core. I struggle with this a lot. This is why I have so many problems with injuries, is because when I'm in fight, flight, or freeze, my core pushes out because it's protecting my internal organs, right? And I hold it there. As my whole body goes back, I clench my jaw and and I pull my head back like this. So I have physical like back pain and things like that because of these physical reactions that I have that sometimes I don't even know I'm doing it. Excuse me. Now, I can 100% realize that I'm doing them. Typically it's, after something has happened, or if I'm ruminating about something a lot, or if I have a trauma response to something, I can usually feel it happening. But again, sometimes I can't. And this is where alcohol has been an issue for me. For many years, when these things would happen, I would think if I just have a drink, I can calm down. It doesn't work for me. But at the time, I didn't understand that. Now I understand it, and I have the opportunity to choose that. But one of the things that I can do is just be mindful and monitor those things. If I notice that I'm having one of those days where everything is stiff, I'm back, protecting myself from the world. I'm barely breathing. That's another thing. I'll breathe right now. When I'm in this state, I usually am forward, like again, protecting, and I'm breathing through my chest instead of breathing through my stomach. And that's one of the things that anxiety does, is the shortness of breath. I bet you've realized this. When you're in an anxiety spot, you're not breathing normally. You're not breathing through your stomach. Sometimes I think to myself, how do I even breathe? And I'll wake up sometimes and feel like I can't breathe, feel like I can't get enough oxygen. And then I also notice how tight everything is. So I just wanted to go over that because sometimes we don't even think about that being a symptom and part of having anxiety and OCD, but it is. So if you find yourself doing these things, really one of the things that helps me is just being aware of it. And then when it happens, first of all, not getting upset and anxious about not being able to relax, and more just, okay, let me pull my tongue off the roof of my mouth. Let me breathe in from my lower stomach, and let me put my shoulders down, because my shoulders tend to go up and then I go back. And so then I do this. Look, I don't have a chin. And sometimes I'll like see my reflection in the mirror and I'm like, why am I sitting like this? When it's really just this protective mechanism, because leaning forward into the world when you're in that state is terrifying, because you're leaning into what could come at you. And when we're in a protective state, we're back and we're tight, and everything up here is you're protecting all of this area. So anyway, I thought I would share that with you because I wish I had known that a few years ago so I could start to learn how, when it happens, just be mindful and practice relaxing. It can be really hard. It can be difficult, but if you do it over and over and over, you can really get better at it. So anyway, that's what I had to say today. If any of this resonated with you, I'm so glad, because this stuff can be super lonely and it can be super confusing. But just so you know that you're not alone. So if you're looking for peer support or referral consultations, head on over to ChrissyHodges.com. You can check it out below in the description or on my channel. And if you're wanting groups, OCDpeers.com. And remember, if you need treatment and you're looking for telehealth around the world, treatmyocd.com at NoCD. I will see you next time. Oh my God, I'll at least have my hair done. I'm going to get my hair done. I'm not doing another video until this gets done next Thursday because it has been way too long. I'll see you later. Bye.